In our last episode, Sinister Urge, we saw the beta test of tyranny. Ayen Natum of Lagash proved that the gods could be used to justify a local massacre for a single field of grain. But the great hoax didn't stop there. It evolved. In this episode, titled The Dirty Deeds, we meet the man who took Ayen Natum's blueprints and built a factory of death, Sargon of Akkad. Sargon didn't just want a field, he wanted the world. He moved beyond simple war and into the logistics of an atrocity. We are exposing the internal memos of his inner circle, the sons of Akkad, who redefined humanity itself. From the temple audits that seized the people's faith, to the strangleholds on water resources that starved entire cities, these tyrants didn't see people. They saw human assets to be used, abused, and liquidated. The age of the local warlord is over. The age of the monster in the machine has begun. Let's look back at the dirty deeds of Sargon of Akkad. Act 1. The Foundling Fraud. Every monster needs a mask. Sargon's mask was the baby in the basket floating down the Euphrates River. A story made up to shed his own biological stock. He didn't just appear in the reeds, he was installed. Listen to the official bio, issued by the Akkadian Secretariat. They didn't just write a history, they deleted a man and manufactured a myth.
My mother was a changeling, my father I knew not, my father's brothers loved the hills. My city is Arzupiranu, which lies on the banks of the Euphrates. My mother, the priestess, conceived me in secret, she bore me.
Sargon's birth legend, recorded centuries after his death, is the internal memo, used to turn a usurper into a chosen one. It's a story designed to distract the human assets from the fact that their king was a commoner who took the throne by force. Act 2. The next dog. He invented the logistics of humiliation. In the streets of Nippur, he paraded his rivals in dog collars for kings, wooden yokes called neck stocks. He used Nippur inscription, a series of monuments inscribed with a record of his dirty deeds, to tell the world that mercy was for failed gods. The new order of Akkad only understood the weight of the leash while invoking the power of the goddess Ishtar. The Nippur inscription also details the demolition of rival cities.
The walls of Or he tore down, the walls of Uruk he tore down, the walls of Lagash he tore down.
The people that he did not kill, he rendered homeless within their own streets. He literally stole their security. In the ancient world, a city without a wall isn't a city, it's a slave labor camp. He turned the metropolises of Sumer into open-air holding pens. There were no more walls to break. There were no more neighbors to resist. There was only the dust of the earth and the king who owned it. Behind the palace walls, the Akkadian Secretariat was busy with the real work, the liquidation of the elite. Sargon realized that you can't own a city if the old leaders still breathe. So he launched the world's first monarchic purge. 50 governors, the sons of the soil, were dragged from their villas, their titles revoked, their lineages deleted. In their place, Sargon installed his own sons, the sons of Akkad, men who didn't care about the history of the land, only the yield of the harvest. Listen to the internal memo of the Secretariat.
Sargon, king of the world, king of Akkad. In the battle of he was victorious. 50 governors he defeated. As for Lugal Zargesi, king of Uruk, he captured him. In a neck stock, he led him to the gate of Enlil. The city walls he destroyed. The silver and the gold he gathered. The sea of the south he reached and washed his weapons in the water.
He washed his weapons, That's the Secretariat's way of saying he rinsed the blood of 34 battles into the ocean. This king was no hero. He was a butcher with a mace. Sargon didn't just kill because he was a monster. He killed because he claimed he had a contract. He turned the god Enlil into his silent partner, the ultimate absentee landlord for his atrocities. Act 3, the Temple Audit. The most dangerous son of Akkad was a daughter, Enheduanna. She was the world's first chief financial officer. She didn't use an army to take the city of Ur. She used an audit. She used her personal memos to launch a hostile takeover of the Sumerian church. She claimed that since her grandmother was a high priestess and her father was a god, the temple's gold belonged to her family office.
Your ledgers are spiritually light, priest. You've been feeding the gods silver to your own sons. By the king's decree, this temple is now an annex of the Agade treasury. Your priests are no longer servants of the divine. They are human assets, and I am their manager.
It was a bank heist, dressed in a priestess's robe. She turned the confessional into a wiretap. Every secret told to a god was now intelligence for the deep state. She was the first author in history to sign her name to a dirty deed. She wanted the world to know that Enheduanna, the daughter of the king, was the one who authorized the nightmare. Listen to how she justifies the slaughter. Listen to her claim that their own undoing was from not recognizing the divine authority of her father, the divine king.
In the mountain where you are not worshipped, the vegetation is cursed. You have turned its gates into piles of rubble. You have made its rivers run with blood. Your people have nothing to drink. They are led in a leash before the great king.
She wasn't praying for peace. She was blaming the victims for their own extinction. She was telling the neighbors that the blood in their mouths was their own fault for not loving the machine that broke them. Act 4, the water stranglehold. The neighbors didn't just lose a war. They lost the right to drink. Sargon's engineers realized that a city is just a throat, and the canals are the veins. To own the South, you just have to pinch the vein. Listen to the first memo, the internal audit of the water bank.
By the command of the king, the head gates of the Great Canal are closed. The wood is sealed with bitumen so that no drop may escape. The water rights of the southern rebels are revoked. The silt already sleeps in their channels. Before the moon rises, their fields will be dust. The life of the river is now the property of Agade.
They didn't call it murder. They called it redirecting. But as the cities downstream began to choke on the dust, Enheduanna arrived to deliver the second memo, the divine foreclosure.
To the survivors in the dust, the goddess Inanna has turned her gaze from you. She has turned your gates into rubble and your rivers into blood. By the decree of the King of the world, your stewardship of the waters has ended. Your lands are now granted to the sons of Akkad, from the upper sea to the lower sea. If you seek to quench your thirst, do not look to the river, look to the temple ledger. For those with no silver to offer the great king, the goddess has already spoken. She has decreed that your able-bodied men must be driven as prisoners before her. Give us your sons to serve the king's shadow, or let the desert be your only drink.
Fields of grain turned to salt. The vegetation his daughter wrote about didn't just wither. It was executed by a committee of Akkadian accountants. They called it resource management. We call it a water siege. Sargon didn't need to kill everyone. He just had to hold the kill switch to the river. He turned the lifeblood of Sumer into a noose, and when the rivers finally ran red, it wasn't just blood, it was the rust of a civilization dying of thirst in the dark. Sargon of Akkad reigned for 56 years. He built the world's first empire, and he did it with a stylus and a mace. But a machine built on thirst has a fatal flaw. Just like in Eonatum of Lagash, they pushed the limits of the soil until it was too salinated. He was the first tyrant to use the massacre, not as a fit of rage, but as a divine strategy. He turned the dirty deed into a holy sacrament, and his ledger into a Bible of blood. He was murdered in his own palace, beaten to death by the very sons who ate from his ledger. They used their stone cylinder seals, the tools of his own bureaucracy, to crush the life out of him. A fitting end for a man who turned humans into ink. Next time, we open the files on the divine monolith, ancient Egypt. We go back to the beginning, to a king named Na-Armor, the man who realized that you don't need a leash if you can convince the world that you are the sun.